a lot of people thought maybe this was a April Fool's joke or something like that, or we're hoping that it was. I know I was hoping that it was, but it became pretty apparent pretty quickly that that was not the case. And Ed had put out a suicide note on Facebook, and Ed Piskor is no longer with us. And I do want to say thanks to Aaron for joining me for what's going to be a pretty tough conversation, but we definitely need to talk about it.
Yeah, I agree. We talked about it a little bit last night. Well, it was the whole show last night on Pop by Culture. It was a really, really tough show to get through. At various times, I think everybody that was on the panel, me, Drew, Josh, we all got choked up at various times. It was not an easy thing to get through. And I can't even imagine. I can't even imagine what his family's going through. I can't imagine. Just any of it. It's an absolutely awful situation.
Absolutely. Deepest condolences out to the Piskor family. Obviously, probably doesn't mean much, but it's what I got right now. And I see a lot of people making this about a billion different things, and most of it not being Ed Piskor, but we'll kind of go through what Ed had to say, his last testament before he took his life, and kind of go over it, the allegations and his response to that stuff. And then, I have a few words about my own conduct during this and how I'm feeling about it. But for the most part, I don't want it to be about us. This is about Ed and losing a life far too early. Somebody that's been in the comic book community for a long time. And, this is something that you never would have expected to happen. But this is what he posted onto Facebook. I'm so sorry for being so stupid. I definitely should never have talked with Molly D. The language and optics look really dumb at best, but I promise my innocence. Especially out of context, it looks terrible. It was the height of COVID with no end in sight, and I was alone through most of it. I was just happy to have the internet to talk to people with common interests. The way that I noticed her was that she would like a bunch of my pictures at once. I wasn't trolling Instagram randomly, but I definitely shouldn't have chatted with her when I found out how young she was. Seeing someone younger representing R. Crumb and Gigi Allen gave me hope for the next generations and made me curious. Curiosity killed the cartoonist. There's no way I'd have a 17-year-old stay at my place, maybe not 18 even. I was forward projecting to some unknown future where COVID lockdowns were finished and we could see people again. And it wasn't even with sex in mind, but simply saying that there's a bed here to crash, like the kindness that was given to me a bunch of times when I was starting out. The zine fair in town, come crash, ask Liana Fink or anyone else who comes to visit. It doesn't mean sex. When I asked if she could keep a secret, it was because I was sharing some Red Room pages before announcing the book. And I was just trying to sound cool. Tone is missing. When I said naughty girl, it was sarcastic after she told me some simple crime or infraction she committed. The whole pile of my DMs she collected to show is just awful to look at. I'm sorry, I wasn't trying to offer professional favors to anybody or use my position. What a joke to get into anyone's pants. We're all in the art game, so why not introduce new friends to old friends? When I was bringing up professional stuff to anybody, it was just common ground conversation. Obviously providing his side of the story to the initial allegations that went out there that he was DMing with the 17-year-old, which a lot of people did find inappropriate. And I would still say it's inappropriate to be DMing a 17-year-old when you're 38, but he says it wasn't sexual. There's actually no proof within the DMs that we're providing out there that they were sexual in nature, and he provides context to a lot of the things that people said, well, these are clear signs of grooming. And I think I really wish, in hindsight's 2020, right? I really wish that he would have come out and defended himself. Not everybody would have obviously stood up for Ed Piskor, but I think a lot of people would have understood how this could be misconstrued, and maybe this was a one-time mistake or whatever. But unfortunately, he didn't. I'm glad that he did defend himself eventually, but I wish he would have done that while there was still some hope, I guess.
Yeah, I think the one of the things that came up in the chat last night that one of our viewers said was he said that unfortunately the way that these things work now, the way that things work within the comic industry, the way that things work within social media, is that there is no this too shall pass, because there's so many people that are invested in it going on forever. So even if he had come out and made that statement, the people that he later names in there, that continually went after him on Twitter, that continually, just bantered back and forth about this nonstop. And kept it going. That's the sort of thing that they would keep going forever. And every time he got an assignment, they would have brought it back up because that's all that they have. They don't have careers of their own, not viable ones. And they have an intense jealousy of anybody who gets any little measure of success. So in that sense, I think that's one of the really insidious things about social media is that there's no forgiveness. And when we covered this on Aficionados, we talked about that. We talked about how there needs to be a road back, and we thought like, yeah, it's really inappropriate. It seems creepy, the way that these came out. Definitely bad judgment. I think that's where we all settled. As we settled on, it's not illegal. There was no crime committed. It was just bad judgment, which bad optics. You can come back from that. Now, granted, there's the people that he names in the letter that would never, ever let him live that down. They would always try to throw that back up. But, sensible people know that you need to forgive, that people can work back from mistakes that they've made, and that there needs to be redemption. That's what makes society function. And, I wish that Ed had stuck around in order to find that out.
Absolutely. Next up, he talks about the second round of allegations. Molly Wright is a conundrum to me, and her actions border on criminal. He said, she said never looks good, but none of what she said happened, and I can't believe she'd be so malicious and pile on like this. Now that I'm officially checked out, I think my family has a civil lawsuit, and she should be held accountable. She pushed this over the edge into multiple women territory. It's so corny. I absolutely never asked for a blowjob in trade for anything. She successfully made me look stupid, and everybody accepted her word as fact. Citizens of the internet are playing such dangerous games with people's lives. I never had anyone lined up for an open relationship with her. I never was interested in a relationship with her. We had sex twice, and she initiated both times. The first time was a surprise. When we were done watching a movie or just hanging out, I don't exactly remember the circumstances 4 years ago. She jumped on me and started kissing me, telling me how comfy I made her feel. We quit hanging out during COVID lockdown, but kept in touch here and there, and I thought things ended naturally. Thankfully, her post, including the piece about me dissing Jim Rugg, super emotional fuck Ed Piskor type language, and the Red Room sales stuff portray she's a petty woman scorned, punitive and false. My house was burning and she threw gasoline on it. There needs to be recourse for my loved ones. I'm dead. I don't have a reason to lie. Hold Molly Wright accountable, please. Reputation destruction is her form of aggression, and there were very real consequences. My lawyer is Harris Miller. Is it possible to subpoena all texts and DMs I had with her? Talking about the second allegations where they said he offered, I believe, his agent's phone number in exchange for a blowjob. Mm-hmm. And that one always seemed weird. There was never any actual proof about that one. Obviously, the allegation was out there, so it needed to be addressed, but it seemed odd. Like, where's any proof that any of this happened? And it does suck that people just bought it hook, line, and sinker. And it definitely sucks that someone piled on and decided to, with Ed Piskor's accounting here, to use it as a moment to I don't know, be malicious or take somebody to task for something he says he never did.
That's always the way, isn't it? It's like a little bit of blood in the water, and then here come the sharks. And there's so many of them out there that just wait for this sort of thing, that like save up these things. And you see all these people on Twitter who have some reason not to like him, and most of it's probably petty jealousy, where they come out and they say, "Oh, I always heard things about him. I always heard that." Okay, well, you don't have any proof. That's not proof. I hear things about people all the time. I hear things about people that I know to be false. Like people talk, people spread gossip, people lie. I don't take any of it as proof unless I see it with my own eyes. And we even questioned this narrative when we started, when we saw her texts come out, or her claims. We said there's something about this that smells fishy. He tried to solicit a blowjob from you in exchange for information that you could get on like IMDb Pro, which seems ridiculous. And then you go on to say that like, oh, but you kept in touch with him. Well, were you not so offended by his egregious behavior that you cut it off? And that made us think that there was more to the story. And now, according to Ed, there was a sexual relationship that occurred on 2 occasions that he says that she initiated. And again, if that information would have been out, that's something that we would have discussed. The only thing that we were able to discuss were the things that were out in the public sphere, and I think we had a very even-handed discussion about it. We always had the caveat that we were waiting on the other side of the story.
And then he does address the third allegation from Tefeta something. I can't remember her name. He's like, yeah, I asked if I could draw her naked. She had a big rack and a nice body. I like to draw women naked. And that was one of the accusations out there. I was like, I expect that artists do like to draw people and potentially naked sometimes. That didn't seem out of line. I don't know. Consenting.
Yeah, I mean,
if she said no and then he continued to ask, maybe we get into inappropriate behavior there. But I don't think it's inappropriate for an artist to ask a woman to illustrate her naked. It seems like
hey, have you ever considered posing nude? I'd love to draw you. And then she's like, no, that's not my thing. And if he was like, oh, all right, it's it's an uncomfortable question to be asked, but I don't think that it rises to the level of this guy is a sex pest. This guy's life needs to be burned down. I don't even remember talking about that portion of it.
No, I talked about it in the initial response to the information that was out there before he lost, obviously, the art show and then the Jim Rugg stuff, we'll get here in a bit. But even then, I was like, this is nothing. I don't even know why this is even out there. But those are him. That's him responding to the allegations. And, I like I said, I wish he would have done this immediately. Like, not everybody would have been like, oh, yeah, I agree with Ed Piskor, but at least people would have understood. And a lot of people that were kind of stuck in the middle, just believing the information that was out there, would have had some context, because it paints a completely different picture. One, that some of the allegations were completely false. And then the other ones that, while it might have appeared, or the appearance of grooming was in there, that the intention was never there. And obviously, when you're looking at 3 pages of DMs in a potential 2 or 3 year long relationship where they're texting each other and DMing each other, there's a lot of context that's not available, just through those things. And you could just see some stuff in there that didn't really add up, where, the I'm a slut for line art kind of stuff, the, naughty girl stuff I was like, they were completely taking it out of context.
Yeah, it's our contention was always just that, like today's day and age, you gotta read the room, you gotta know what's appropriate. It's the majority of people are not going to find it appropriate that you're 38 and you're trading DMs with a 17-year-old, regardless of the context. It's just a bad idea, and he even admits that. He says, like, yeah, I understand the optics were bad. He does go on to explain himself, which I think all of those explanations are completely completely believable. I just wish that, like, one of the things that Drew was talking about last night was he was talking about the different aspects of wellness that, like mental wellness. And he said that it seemed like Ed didn't have many of those pillars to kind of fall back on. And so that his career, his art was his one true passion. It was the one thing he had. And, once that looked like it was gone, he didn't see any way forward. And the idea that these people were just going to torment him till for years and years and years, and he would have nothing to show for it, and he could no longer do the one thing that he wanted to do in life, it pushed him over the edge. And as someone who has been there, who's actually been on the bridge, I understand those feelings. I understand that you're not in your right mind. You're not thinking about the people that you're going to hurt by taking your own life. None of that occurs to you. All you know is that you want the pain and you want the despair to stop. And unfortunately, it looks like that's the point he was driven to. And it's just really sad. I wish that I knew him. I wish that I had some way to get a hold of him, because I would have reached out. I've done it before when I've known artists and things like that have been canceled for various things. I've reached out and I've said, like, look, I'm not here to condemn you. I'm not here to condone you. I just want to know that you're okay. I want to know that you're not going to hurt yourself, because I don't want to see anybody do that. One of the things that we talked about on Saturday's show was that there needs to be a way back. There needs to be an opportunity for, even if somebody does something wrong, short of some egregious criminal activity, there needs to be a way back for them into society, and that's what makes society work. And I think the fact that there's so many people that just want to believe that you commit one infraction, you commit one sin in their mind, and then you're just excommunicated for life, and you just need to go off into the woods.
Well,
and
they
never
keep
be
calling
seen
him
again.
a pedophile even after his death. There's nothing. There's no actual grounds or proof that is even remotely the case.
Mm-hmm.
Like calling someone a pedophile is a pretty serious charge.
Mm-hmm. It's the sort of thing that'll get you sued, and get you sued into oblivion for defamation.
Well, it's also the sort of thing that will ruin your life.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously
that's what they want. That's what
here.
that's what this group of ghouls absolutely wants. They love destroying lives. They don't have a happy life of their own. They're miserable, and they want to make other people miserable because that makes them feel good.
Next up, this is what Ed said. Now it's all gone. Art show evaporated. Was about to sign a $70,000 deal for Switchblade Shorties with Abrams. Cartoonist Kayfabe ends with Jimmy's shocking revelation statement. Those words hurt. I have no friends in this life any longer. I'm a disappointment to everybody who liked me. I'm a pariah. News organizations at my door and hassling my elderly parents. It's too much. Putting our address on TV and the internet. How could I ever go back to my small town where everyone knows me? Some good people reached out and tried to help me through this whole thing, but I'm just not strong enough. The instinctual part of my brain knows that I'm no longer part of the tribe. I'm exiled and banished. I'm giving into my instincts and fighting them at the same time. Self-preservation is lost out from the sound in everybody's voice. I think we all knew this was the conclusion. Jim Rugg came to my house unsolicited and gave me a hug and told me he loves me. If you know Jimmy, you know how huge that was. Kind of talking about the consequences for allegations that had not been proven. That there certainly was some proof out there that there were DMs there. None of the other stuff, there's any allegations to it. There's no actual proof out there that he was trying to engage in a sexual relationship with this a 17-year-old when she was 17. She's now certainly into her 20s or whatever. And he lost a $75,000 deal. I imagine for a small-time comic book creator, that's a lot of money. Lost his art show, and basically everything was taken away from him. Inside of a week, he was deemed guilty without ever really any proof.
No, and the fact that the media showed up at his house and doxed.
It was strange. I've never seen anything like that.
I haven't either for a small town comic book. And here's the other thing is, all these comic book professionals. I would be really interested in seeing if any of the comic professionals that came out and condemned him. I would love to see if they were the ones, any of the ones that signed the letter defending Gerard Jones when he was busted with all of the child pornography. I would love to see if they were people that defended him, but then went after Ed, for unproven allegations.
Well, and he talks about I'm no longer part of the tribe, and I do think that's one of the big things, obviously coming out of this, but just in society in general, is that we're so ultra aware of everything right within our sphere. And we're so blocked off as communities. I'm a part of this community. I don't associate with this people and this people. Everything is black and white. We're good, they're bad. And thus, just consequences for everything that I deem bad without ever coming out and having a normal discussion or any type of normal conversation about this. You try to be even-handed about these things. And this is about Ed, not about me. But even in my video, which I thought I was as even-handed as I could be, there are things, I'll talk about his at the end, that I would change. But I pointed out the inconsistencies or the headlines that didn't make sense with what we were seeing and all that kind of stuff, to where I was saying, I think this behavior is inappropriate, but I don't understand why this is even coming out. And people are saying, you're trying to cancel it, or you're defending a pedophile and all this stuff. And it was completely opposite ends of the spectrum reactions to the exact same information that I put out there with the exact same opinions, because depending on what tribe you're in depends on just how nasty you're going to be at both ends of the spectrum. There's nobody sitting in the middle. Well, there are people sitting in the middle, but there are so many people on the fringes nowadays. It's freaking lunacy at this point.
I think that we were sitting in the middle. We were waiting to, we were talking about what was out. We were talking about how it looked. But we were very clear that, we hadn't heard both sides of the story, that he hadn't defended himself. And we even speculated that maybe the reason that he hadn't come out and issued a statement was because he was consulting lawyers. Because if these allegations can't be proven, if all of their ducks weren't in a row, he had a very serious defamation suit on his hands, because he could demonstrably prove money that he lost because of these allegations. So I think we were as even-handed as we could be. Now, I will say that, when you get 6 guys together to talk about a topic, they're going to make jokes, even if it's a serious topic. That's just what guys do. It's gallows humor. It's kind of how we deal with things that, we think might be horrible. And so could we have been less flippant about it? Absolutely, we could have. In retrospect, I wish that we had. I wish that we'd, given a little more gravity to what might be the consequences. But at the same time, I thought that a statement would be forthcoming. I thought that he would push back against the allegations, and that there was probably legal wrangling that was happening. I never in a million years thought that I didn't know him. I didn't know how fragile his psyche was. I didn't know how it would affect him. I didn't know how Jim Rugg's statement would affect him. I didn't know that he felt abandoned. These are all things that we couldn't know. So at the same time, in hindsight is 2020. We can say like, oh, maybe we could have done things differently. But at the time, I thought we were as even-handed as we thought was appropriate.
Next up, he said, I knew I wasn't going to be able to survive this. Comics is beyond a profession to me. It's everything. That might sound sad and pathetic to some, but this culture and medium gave me the greatest joy in life. No public statements would do. Nobody against me would be convinced. Maybe this drastic move will convince a few. Maybe it will get a couple more people to consider not joining online lynch mobs over gossip. That'll have much of a blip. I'm not doing this out of guilt, though. Once again, it was super dumb chatting with Molly D. My intentions were never nefarious with her or anybody. I'm doing out of intense shame. We're not built to have hundreds or maybe a few thousand people judging or harassing you at once. A private and solitary mind can't take it. Pretty haunting, very true words there from Ed. We're not built to handle that kind of storm alone. And when you do feel abandoned and people that you thought were your friends aren't standing up for you, or people that you thought would go out there and put their reputations on the line because they know that you wouldn't do that, and they're not doing that, would put anybody in a frame of mind where bad things could happen. And, I feel obviously terrible about this. I didn't know Ed either. I knew the channel. I enjoyed the banter between Ed and Jim, but I don't watch a whole lot of comic book YouTube anymore. I've noticed that I have to stay away from that stuff because I'm talking about it all the time. But when I was watching Cartoonist Kayfabe a few times, they certainly had a lot of love for comic books. And when that is basically, by his own admission, was almost his entire life, and to have everything you've ever worked for, those are devastating consequences.
Yeah,
and I certainly don't condone what he did. I don't think suicide was the answer. I want to put that out there. I'm not a big fan of that. I've been through a lot of suicide stuff in my life, and I know how it affects people, whether it's family members or people that work for you and stuff like that. It's an awful thing to go through, and I feel just god awful that he got to the point where he thought that was the best answer.
Well, like I said, when you just speaking from experience, when you get to that point, you can't even see the people that you're going to hurt. You can't see the wreckage that you're going to leave in your wake. The emotional damage that you're going to do to people who love you, people who are on your side. Just the despair is just too much. So, I definitely understand how people get there. But what I would say to anybody out there who's suffering, who's going through it, who's, suffering with depression, and has those sort of thoughts, there are people that care. There's suicide prevention hotlines that you can call. If you watch us here on YouTube and, you feel a kinship with us, and you're having those kind of thoughts, you can reach out. Any one of us will talk to you. I'm happy to talk to you about my experience and how, you do come out the other side. If I would have, and it was partially the comic book industry that drove me to that point. was I had people that were actively trying to destroy my reputation, that were whisper networking and trying to make sure that I didn't get a job anywhere else after I left Boom. Those people are still in the industry. And, I also had personal things going on too. It was like everything was collapsing all at once, both personally and professionally. And I didn't see a way out. But fortunately, I got through it. And I'm here to tell you, it does get better. If I would have done it, there's so many things that I would have missed out on, so many people I would have hurt, and so many things that I would have missed out on that, were ahead. So if you get to that point, please reach out to somebody, because it's a lie. It's an insidious lie that your brain is telling you. That's, it's a whisper in your ear that you don't need, because it's not true. You can come back from things. Things may not be the same, but you may find a better life on the other side, and you probably will. I know I did.
Yeah, I know. I don't talk about this stuff a whole lot, but I guess we're going to open up here, and you're obviously talking about your experiences. As a young man, my life was not very pleasant. And I certainly, I walked into my mom when she had slit her wrist twice. And I remember when I was a little kid, I remember walking into a garage where she had closed the door and kept the car running with their window open, doing, I guess, carbon monoxide poisoning. I remember being there when the paramedics were called because she had tried to overdose on painkillers. She did that again when I was an adult, and it's hard to talk about because, fortunately, she survived every one of those attempts. But as somebody that's there and witnessing it and being a part of it, whether you're 7 years old, which I think I was the first time, or whether you're 20 years old, which is the last time that I remember basically that stuff happening. Like it's fucking devastating. It's something that will never go away. And, I forgive my mom, and I don't have any ill feelings about it. And I wish I could say that stuff doesn't affect me, but I know that it's still here with me, and it's kind of one of those things.
Yep.
These are the last things that he said. Once again, I'm guilty of being stupid. No doubt, but that's all. I never thought in a million years that I'd take this step, but I also never in a million years thought that something so Orwellian would ever happen to me. You never know in this life. I was murdered by internet bullies, massive amounts of them. Some of you out there absolutely contributed to my death as you were entertaining yourself with gossip. I wasn't AI. I was a real human being. You chipped little bits of my self-esteem away all week until I was vaporized. Maybe I'll be able to haunt you dorks as a ghost. I come from gypsy heritage, and I definitely cursing a lot of you. This is the calmest I felt all week. It's over for me. I'm sorry for the hurt it will cause my family and closest buds. I hope it makes people think twice when joining an internet feeding frenzy. There you have it. Control freak to the last. Peace out. And I was murdered by internet bullies. That's shit that won't go away either. That's rough.
And the sad thing is, this isn't even the first time we've seen it. Jason Pearson a few years ago took his own life, and he was somebody that was known to be, I think bipolar is the correct term, but I'm not sure of his exact diagnosis. But he was definitely known to have depression and to struggle with it. And the internet lynch mob came for him for making a couple of statements, and it was led by our good friend Mark Wade, who has never ceased to grab a torch and a pitchfork and go to burn somebody's farmhouse down. It's a very sad thing. But like I said, it's not the first time this has happened. I don't think it'll be the last. We have Zoe Quinn, who got hired at DC after driving a man to suicide. This industry is sick. This industry is, I said it on Josh's show last night, it's like swimming in raw sewage a lot of the time. And you wonder if you even want to be a part of it. And that's a huge reason why I have no interest in ever being a part of the mainstream. They can cancel me. It's fine. I'm better off for it. I prefer working with independent creators. I prefer being on the outside. I would rather do crowdfunded stuff, and I don't want to join anybody's little clique, because I don't think these little lunchroom gossips, and they're on each side, people that are just constantly warring with each other. I don't have any interest in that. I'm happy right here with the aficionados, with the friends that we've made here, because we are all friends. We all have each other's back. And if any of us ever had any kind of problem or were going through something, I know that the rest of us would be there for them. it's just a better place to be. I don't like this tribalism in comics, and I don't like what the industry has become.
Yeah, it's been rough, like especially the response to all this stuff. I don't even like to think about it, like just the people kind of using this to their own gain when we probably should be thinking about Ed and kind of what happened there and what our part in it, if anything. You know, he did mention some names of people that he directly held responsible. You can go find that information for yourself, because I don't want to go out there and cause another situation like this by piling on or whatever. But I do know that I need to look at myself and what were my actions in this. You know, I do cover comic book news. You know, the guy that created X-Men Grand Design that has an enormous kind of mainstream comic book YouTube channel felt like comic book news that I would normally cover. I covered the Warren Ellis stuff. I covered, you know, the accusations against Sean Gordon Murphy out there. They were a little bit easier to cover. So I thought there was an element of this that was a little bit more difficult. And, you know, looking back and I think I this is something I would normally cover, and I don't want to do what I do scared or anything like that. But I do think there's a few things that I would change about all this. You know, on the thumbnail, it said, "What a creep." Now, if you go and watch the video, or you did before I put it on private, there is an element of that. I do say that what he was doing did feel like creepy behavior as a father, as somebody that doesn't think that's appropriate. I still think and hold true to that statement that I think that was creepy behavior. I don't know that that makes him a creep, but that's not what the entire video was about. A lot of it was trying to provide context in my own opinions on it of what was actually out there at the time. And a lot of the things kind of went against the narrative that was being painted out there that he was grooming multiple women. But you wouldn't have gotten that from the thumbnail. It made it seem like the entire video would have been me calling him a creep, which I would have changed. I wish I hadn't done that. I wish I hadn't talked about it really even on the Comics Aficionados. We had a level-headed adult discussion about it. But, you know, you and Josh and Doc and MVP and Jim weren't out there talking about this as it was going on, and the allegations that I could see. Not that I'm on social media 24/7, so it's obviously not something that you guys were terribly interested in getting your opinions out about. I wish we would have just talked about something else. Now, I don't have any problems with the discussion that we had, but I did put you guys in a position to put your opinions out about something that I think maybe some of you would have liked to have kept to yourself. And the last thing I would have changed, I've never met Ed Piskor. I don't know Ed Piskor. I've never talked to him, DM'd him. I've never emailed the guy in my life. But seeing what was happening and you know, 20 years in the military, being a leader of not only young men but adult men as well, and seeing what can happen to people when they feel like something they've worked so hard for 5 years or 10 years or 15 years is being taken away from them. I kind of wish I had reached out to him personally. I didn't have his number or anything like that, but I bet you I probably could have been able to do that. Would that have changed anything? I don't know. But I'll never know because I never even fucking tried. So if I could go back in time, in hindsight is 2020, and we all wish we had that magic time machine that we could make things better and we could act better in the situation. You know, I would have tried to reach out to him and found a way to talk to him and did what I could. And
yeah,
you know, I guess that's what I'm going to learn from.
I might have as well, had I ever had any contact with him or had any contact information for him. You know, obviously didn't know that this was coming, didn't know it would get to that point. But like I said, I have done it in the past with people that I did know who, you know, were probably more substantially accused than Ed. Like you said, would it have made a difference? I mean, it's doubtful because he did say in his note that he had actual friends reaching out to him to see if he was okay, and it wasn't helping. It wasn't changing his mind. So I don't know that like two strangers reaching out might have helped. I doubt that if you would have offered to have him come on the show and talk about his side of it, I doubt he would have taken you up on that offer. But we'll never, like you said, we'll never know. So in the future, maybe that's something that we need to consider, is we need to track down information and at least let people know that, like, hey, even if you don't want to talk to us, not everybody out here is rushing to judgment. We've commented on it, we've talked about it, but we're awaiting your side of the story. So at least he knows that there are people that have an open mind about it and are waiting to, have it contextualized by, the person that's accused.
Yeah. So, and I guess my final words are, rest in peace, Ed Piskor. I hope you found some type of peace that you were looking for, because obviously things got out of hand very quickly. I'm very sorry that this happened. I feel terrible for any part maybe that people perceive or totally believe that I played in it. I do feel like I could have handled things better, but I think a lot of people could have handled things better, and I think it's on everyone to kind of learn from this. And like I said, my deepest condolences to the Piskor family, and certainly any close personal friends of Ed Piskor and Cartoonist Kayfabe and the fans of the channel that certainly learned a lot about comic books. It's tough having a comic book YouTube channel, and his is one of the bigger ones, and it was only 90,000 because it's a small community of people that are interested in this stuff. And he was definitely part of the fraternity, and they were one of the bigger ones out there. And he was a voice that a lot of people appreciated and respected. And he certainly was basically a comic book historian. He was a huge fan, and it's unfortunate everything ended up happening.
Yeah, it really is. I guess the main takeaway from this is, if you're hurting, reach out. If you think someone's hurting, reach out, and just look out for yourselves and look out for other people. And don't join these cancel culture mobs on Twitter. It's just absolutely disgusting that this is how people spend their days. And just collecting data on people in these little gossip groups, just waiting to see who they can destroy. I think that I don't want to see those people driven to extremes, but maybe we just need to shun them and not give their voices any oxygen.